let's talk about it. The big one, at least for me, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but Boyhood. Boyhood is the latest film from Richard Linklater. He started shooting it 12 years ago, and the idea was he would shoot a few scenes of this movie every year with the various actors. The goal being you would see the actors change and grow over that time. And what this film does is it creates kind of a perfect time capsule of that entire era. Now, when I was watching it, there was a few things that started bothering me early on where, like, the pop culture references were getting hit a little too hard. And I thought, is this really what they're going to do the whole time? Like, they're going to sing Britney Spears songs in 2003 and they're going to sing, different, are they just going to keep doing this the whole movie? But then what I realized was they might have shot 5 different versions of that scene. And then with the sort of being able to look back, they could sort of say, all right, this is the actual song that is actually memorable from that era. Let's use that one. And so the film doesn't feel dated somehow, right, even though they specifically put it at a specific time and place.
Yeah, it's an interesting I kind of had that conversation with John, I think, before we saw the documentary. The film essentially creates itself its own script supervisor in a way, like, or somebody in that sort of instance where they have to go back and find, like, the Nintendo handheld console or what song was popular or what clothing. I mean, they didn't have to go back and do that. It was just like, what's current right now? Let's put it in the movie, and then 10 years from now, it's going to make all this sense, and it's going to be perfect, and it's going to be, there's not going to be any errors whatsoever with what's going on. I thought that part of it is just brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, first off, I think this is really visionary, and I can't even think of, the concept. I just think it's so visionary to think of this ahead of time and script this to go over 12 years. But it's also so darn natural. I mean, seeing this family evolve over 10 or 12 years, and seeing the kids grow up and seeing the parents age. I mean, it really, for me, was really incredible. And then, not only does Linklater capture, things from his boyhood that he remembered that he wanted to incorporate into the film, into the certain sequences, but I don't know. I mean, just seeing this young man grow up on screen, it all just, the things that he is doing, I know is scripted, but it's also some kind of morph between script and his natural behavior. And my gosh, I mean, it was just really incredible.
Yeah.
And so it's about a family of 2 parents, one played by Patricia Arquette and the father Ethan Hawke, and then 2 kids. I can't remember their names, but one of them played by Richard Linklater's daughter Leela, I believe.
Or is it Lorelai? That was Lorelai.
I'm sorry, Lorelai. Yes,
and then,
thanks.
Is it L.R. Coltrane?
L.R. Coltrane, and he's somebody to watch. But these 2 kids growing up in a broken household. So Patricia Arquette and Ethan Hawke are separated early in the film and throughout the film. And it's their relationships grow closer and further apart throughout the film, but they never, well, I'm not going to say more. But Ethan Hawke is a father who's loved by his kids, but he's not necessarily the ideal father.
Yeah,
and
he's not around a lot.
He's not around a lot. And Patricia Arquette is the stable,
he's the good guy because he shows up with gifts and, is fun for the 24-hour period he has.
Takes him bowling, takes him to baseball games, and that sort of thing.
And over the course of 10 years, he grows as well.
Yeah.
And so, but it's just really, again, as I mentioned, it's just this natural progression of this family and seeing the kids grow and age and the family age on screen. It's incredible. I don't even know what to compare it to.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I describe this film to a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's a documentary? And I'm like, no.
But yes, at the same time.
Yeah. And I think the most interesting character for me was the Patricia Arquette character, because you're right, she does seem like the stable person,
right? But
she keeps making really bad choices that affect everyone around her. There's some really intense scenes in this film that again feel real.
Right.
They feel like they could have really happened, and maybe they did really happen.
Right.
And you don't just get sort of that scene and then you go away. You get to see a scene an hour later where the characters are reflecting back on that moment with another character and talking about how this, how this grew, how this made them change. And there's just so many genuine moments in this film, like this scene when Patricia Arquette, it's near the end of the film, and her son is, about to go off to college, and she's losing it. And it's like, I'm sure a lot of parents have that exact same moment where it's like, oh my God, it's over. This is it. I don't have any more kids to take care of. What do I do now?
Yeah.
They want that freedom, but then they realize they don't want that freedom at the same time. Yeah, she played that really well.
She played it well, and maybe there's a natural element there that she's no longer going to be around this young man because this film has ended, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think just the time, the investment of time, I think puts something into each of their characters. Yeah, it was incredible. And to know that even though it might have been relatively loosely scripted, just to know that it was scripted, 12 years ago, and these details were built into that script, not knowing how the actors are going to change as people, but not also knowing how he's going to change as a director.
How do you know that, first of all, they're going to keep wanting to act for the next 12 years? How do you know that they're going to, still be able to act? How do you know they'll be able to do that? How do you know they're not going to parents aren't going to move them away?
Right.
Or
they're going to be stable human beings.
Sure. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. What
they got other projects they're involved with, or other things in their own personal lives.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
I mean, he did joke about that. Let's just get to the point. Like, if one of the actors had died, that's a pretty big part of your movie that you're probably going to have to change. Like, if the boy had died,
of course,
your movie's done. Like, it's that big part of it is sort of out of the way. But I thought what was interesting was that Linklater basically said he knew. I think he said the second year they were filming, he knew exactly what the last shot of the film would be.
Right,
and that's just that's as somebody that would aspire to be a filmmaker, like I know, like, if I've tried to write stuff before, it's like I know the beginning, the middle, the end. I don't know anything in between. But it's like for someone of his stature to say that, I'm like, okay, so it is possible. Like, you can definitely know exactly what you want to do, but it's getting there. That's the hard part.
Yeah. And think about, think about how much the world changed in those 10 years. I mean,
well, this happens
just amazing.
Essentially right after 9/11.
Yeah, that's about when he started.
Because Ethan Hawke's character pretty much makes a good reference to that.
Right.
And then from there, all this stuff that happened.
And the last shot was utterly perfect.
Yeah.
It was the perfect ending to this film. It's the exact moment when you realize I'm not a kid anymore.
Right.
And it's like, it's just amazing.
You could make a movie called Manhood.
Exactly.
I want that.
I really hope he does. I hope he started shooting, because the movie and right now is the absolute perfect time to watch this movie, because it ends essentially last September.
Right.
That's when the movie is finished in real time. And it's just like, I really think anyone who's just going to college right now should watch that movie, because they will recognize all of it. It will feel like a home movie of their life.
Yeah.
And I say visionary. I still think it's visionary, but the primer for this for him was his work with Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke in the Before Midnight series. And so over the course of those, it's only 3 films now, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So over the course of those 3 films, I think he spans at least 15 years of their lives.
Sure.
So he's already had a taste of seeing folks grow older on screen. So maybe that was what inspired it.
And of course, working with Ethan Hawke again, I'm sure that was probably helpful to have somebody around that sort of knew what was going on and sort of what was expected, I guess, of the actors. It's also good to note, and he even mentioned it, Linklater, at the end of the film, that IFC Films was like setting aside money every year for this to happen, to potentially maybe never get completed, which is a pretty big move on their part. So kudos to them for playing that role, because I think they said they shot like 3 or 4 days out of each year.
Right.
39 days total, I think, is what I wrote down. So the fact that you're only shooting 39 days over the course of 12 years, but you need a lot of money to make that happen.
Right.
That's a pretty big move. So I thought that was really impressive to sort of know what behind the scenes, what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my favorite film of the festival. It's probably my favorite film of the year. I mean, I wrote right after we saw it on the Twitter, I said, I'm not going to engage in hyperbole right now because if I could say that I could say anything about this movie right now, but I think for, the generation that covers, I think that's the epic of their generation. I don't see how anyone could do anything that will capture that time period better than what he did.
Yeah.
So,
Well said.
yeah. All right.
A Place for Film is recorded at WFIU Studios in Bloomington, Indiana.